Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of The Lindsay Elmore Show. First up, I am interviewing Heather Ryder about how she overcame high-functioning anxiety and now helps other people to craft their best lives. After that, I interview Stacy Tiegs, a mom, entrepreneur, wife, and grandmother who recognized a bit too late the signs of anxiety in her daughter and the roller coaster ride that they went on through medications and trying to figure out what would help with the anxiety and how she eventually overcame it naturally. Welcome to The Lindsay Elmore Show, a podcast that helps you find fulfillment amidst chaos. On this show, I interview thought leaders, doctors, creatives, spiritual gurus, and game changers who inspire you to pursue your dreams, overcome obstacles, and leave your mark. Heather Ryder is an anxiety specialist who personally overcame her high-functioning anxiety while working in a demanding tech job. As the energy synergist, she works with clients from all over the world to take a non-traditional and holistic approach to healing anxiety. She talks about how anxiety may be masquerading as perfectionism, as imposter syndrome, and she loves to help people get down to the cause of what is actually causing them anxiety. She specializes in helping high achievers get off the hamster wheel of life and stop feeling stressed and anxious and exhausted and overwhelmed to create a balance, a peace, a stability, health, and true contentment. She has worked tirelessly to synergize both neuroscience and emotional healing to help her clients get to the source of their symptoms, to uncover limiting beliefs and persistent habits that hold you back, while at the same time healing the emotional effects of those beliefs and habits. Her methods help you to hear more quickly and more fully than other methods so that you can finally live a joyful and happy life that you deserve. Heather Ryder, welcome to the Lindsay Elmore Show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Lindsay.
So you have been educating yourself and other people about what is high functioning anxiety. And so for a lot of people, high functioning anxiety just isn't in their concept of awareness, because people who have high functioning anxiety may be the picture of success. They get to work early, they dress so perfectly, their hair is neatly styled, they're very high achieving, and they appear very, very calm and very driven to work. However, people with high functioning anxiety may have this like real nervous energy and may be very afraid of disappointing others, may overthink situations, and may have the ongoing need for reassurance, or they're a people pleaser, or they, are kind of avoiding eye contact or like ruminating on the worst case scenario. How did you come to the realization that you weren't just stressed, you had high functioning anxiety?
Yeah, you just described me. That like whatever you just said was what I used to be. So it took me a long time to realize that I had high functioning anxiety. So I used to work in technology and I was stressed all the time. And all those things you just said were true. Like I have a graduate degree. Super successful. Like every job that I did always got, commendations from people. People could count on me, rely on me. I was uber responsible. And so I would spend a lot of my time, what you also just mentioned, ruminating. So I would think about things that I had said or things that I had done, conversations that I had been part of over and over. And sometimes when I say over and over, I'm talking about for like 2 weeks. I'm not talking about just during the day. I would be playing it over and over in my mind. And I did think at the time, like, I don't think this is normal. This doesn't seem really healthy, but I couldn't stop. And if I wasn't doing that, I was thinking about the future and making all sorts of contingency plans, little things about like, oh, which way am I going to drive to get somewhere? And also big life things like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my next phase of life. And if that doesn't work out, then I could, go over here and, like plotting out my career and plotting out, all sorts of things. And so I did, as I mentioned, wonder like, are other people doing that? But I didn't know what high functioning anxiety was. Like I had never heard of that as a term. And I think a lot of people, when they think about anxiety, they think anxiety looks a specific way, right? Like somebody's having panic attacks, that someone, whatever, fill in the blank. And that was not me. So I didn't know that I had it. And it wasn't until I had healed from it much later that I realized, oh my gosh, that's what I was suffering from.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so you mentioned rumination, but like, how do you think this impacted your groundedness, your emotional stability, and when did it eventually come to a head?
It really affected my personal relationships, I would say, because I was so focused on really trying to succeed at work that when I would come home from work, I'm divorced and I've always been the primary caregiver. My relationship with my daughters was really, really suffering. I would just be like, just fizzled out from all of the emotional and mental energy I was expending. And I had insomnia a lot of the time as well. And so I would wind up screaming at my daughters. They were in elementary school. I'm not talking about just yelling. I mean, I would scream at them for the stupidest stuff. And so it was really impacting me that way. That was the area of my life where I felt like I don't have this together. And I knew I was ruining my relationship with them. You can only say sorry so many times, right? It's just then people don't really accept your apologies anymore. But what it took for me, I always call this like the brick upside the head, is me getting really sick from a very serious autoimmune reaction. So I had been overprescribed and overused antibiotics, and looking back, there was definitely some little things in there that were hints that my, gut flora was getting decimated. But then I had all of this stress at work, plus a couple of other life stressors happen all at the same time. And it just sent my nervous system. That was it. It was shot, and it just tipped me over the edge enough where I got very sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to take a holistic approach to healing because I started doing some research and recognized that the antibiotics that I had been prescribed by doctors for years were a huge part of the problem. And I thought, well, I don't trust them anymore, right? And I was like, and the more and more I read, I just felt like I've got to take the initiative on my own and just really branch out and start doing sometimes some unconventional things. And that is really what led me to have emotional healing that I didn't know that I needed. Because when you start to break down like your paradigm, right, the box that you're living in, that's when some really big shifts can start to happen, which happened for me.
Thanks for having me, Lindsay. I'm so excited to share.
I'm so excited to talk to you because what we're going to talk about today is a really important topic. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States. More than 40 million adults 18 years or older suffer from anxiety, and that is almost 20% of the U.S. population. But the thing is anxiety disorders can be highly treatable, both with natural solutions as well as medications, but only 40% of people that are suffering from anxiety get the adequate treatment that they need. And this is bad because anxiety disorders mean that people are 3 to 5 times more likely to end up in a doctor's office and 6 times more likely to be hospitalized for underlying psychiatric disorders than people who do not have anxiety. And you have a special story because you wrote a book not about your own anxiety, but identifying anxiety in your daughter and realizing that you had not done enough as a mom to help her create adequate coping mechanisms. So take us back to the very beginning. When did you begin to understand my child is suffering from anxiety? And how did you process that as a mom? Because everybody wants well children.
Well, I didn't know what I didn't know back then, but we went one way. We had a doctor visit. She was emotionally out of control, and there were times where we didn't know if she was bipolar, if there was some other disorder happening, that the rages were out of control, and her grades started dropping. She dropped out of high school, went to a different type of school of learning. It just escalated to a point where she wanted to take her life. And I was at rock bottom. So I didn't know until we, went to the clinic and we got some medication at that time. That's all I knew at the time. That's just what we did as a family.
Yeah. So you get the medication, and did the medication help?
No, we were on 8 different ones from age 13 to 17 with her. And her symptoms got worse for her. We didn't know, again, if it was some underlying thing, and she was on one for the side effect of that one. And as a parent, I was a young mom. I was stressed out. I was busy. I didn't have a clue how to support her. I had 2 other kids and a business to run. And I just didn't have that knowledge to think there might be a better way. Right?
Well, and so when did you discover that maybe there is something different that I can do?
Somebody asked me to come to have a class. I owned a store at the time, and at that time, that's when we were just on the verge of shifting treatment for my daughter, and the time was phenomenal. So she said, I need to have a essential oils class at your store. And I had no idea what those were. I didn't have a clue what they did. They looked expensive. They smelled good. But she told me some things that made me open up a little bit. Like, I was very, very skeptical, and I was very closed-minded, right? Very closed off to anything, right? So that night I took a risk, and we took some oils home.
So you took some oils home, and nothing happens miraculously overnight. But so you start using oils, and how does that one decision start leading to the next healthy choice and the next healthy choice? Like, tell us about, like, what did you start researching? Because I'm sure that you were sitting late at night trying to research on Google and find all the answers. But as with most health and wellness disorders, it's trial and error that gets you there. So what tried and failed miserably? And then what did you try that you were like, okay, wait, this is actually very helpful for my child?
Right. So we did the oil route, and it took some consistency. It took a little time. We did some diet changes. I started going to some classes that I had never thought were available, because when you get into natural health, everybody's different. Nothing is going to work the same for my daughter as it does for your daughter. Okay?
Amen. Right.
So I'm not claiming this is like the cure-all thing here, but this is a step towards education that I never had. I never went to college. So I started learning a little bit more, and I started learning about hormones, and I went to see a hormone specialist, and come to find Emily was just extremely low on progesterone. That could have been a part of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we've talked with Dr. Kieran Dunstan on the podcast before about how progesterone is one of those hormones that makes you feel more calm, more relaxed, and more at ease. And so, yeah, it evens things out. So you find out she's low in progesterone. And so I'm assuming that you used some either bioidentical hormones or used some natural solutions that provide progesterone, something maybe like a wild yam extract or something that has naturally occurring progesterone. And so then what was the next step?
Then I was invited to a class. I was invited to a seminar. I think Dr. Dan Purser was there. There were some other doctors in the room, and I became a sponge. Because of the experience I had with my daughter, I had to look at myself at the time, and I was twice my body size. I was a toxic mess. And I thought, if my daughter could do it, why can't I? I want to show her that I can, you know, get better as well. And I didn't know I had a problem until I started learning and learning about products and foods and things that added to my toxicness. And I slowly began to think better. I thought clearer. The brain fog was starting to go away, and it led me to so many other different things, you know, self-development wise. And, you know, my journey of growing in natural health is just so different now.